right, so this is the first meeting of the CISSP prep course, CNET 125. Everything you need is on samsclass.info. And here you find my webpage is the main organizing site to tell you what's going on in the class. And so there's a textbook for the CISSP. You can get a free copy of it or to read online here from the college library or the Safari Online. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, but anyway, you can get a free copy if you have a City College email address there. And so we're going to cover the content necessary to pass the CISSP exam, about which I'll say much more later. But this is, you tried getting the free copy and said the book wasn't there. Well, that's rude. Thank you for telling me. I'll look into it. If it's really not there, then you may not be able to get a free copy for this class. Yeah, see if other students got it working. I thought it worked last time I taught this course, but you never know. All right, and you may have to buy a copy, which would be $40 if you get it from Amazon. So there's a Canvas server. There's one for the college, and there's another Canvas server for people who do not. If you're not a City College student, you can use my Mirror Canvas server over here, and then you can get at these quizzes. The quizzes are, of course, open book and timed. You're supposed to take them before the lecture on that topic. And in this class, there are no hands-on projects. CISSP is not a technical certification where you actually do anything with a computer. It's all just book learning and management mostly. But much more about that coming up. But it's the most important certification. You have to have it to be any kind of security professional. Everybody expects you to get this. Someone says they were able to get it. Okay, good. Then after the lecture, we'll have a time when we can talk through problems, and maybe we can get somebody to demonstrate that live. So the book is there. Good. Anyway, so instead of doing hands-on projects, you will have to do 2 presentations and 2 papers in this class to make sure that you have are rehearsing skills to communicate in speaking and communicate in writing. And these don't have to be up to the level of official college papers with official citations and such. They just have to be as good as, say, business letters, spelled good, make some sense, properly grammatical, and 500 to 1,000 words. So there's also a discussion board, and there's weekly discussion topics. You should post something there. And if you go attend off-campus events, or I guess everything's virtual now, some kind of training event, of which there are a lot, it's worth extra credit to do that. If you want extra credit, you can get extra credit by attending talks and events and such. For example, there's one tomorrow. Tomorrow I've got a tech sales speaker coming to my Tuesday night class, and anybody that goes there gets 10 points extra credit. And there will be a whole lot more of these things. I've lined them up down here. Cactus Con is coming up. You could go to that. That'd be worth extra credit. And there's an OWASP training and so on. I accumulate cybersecurity events to go to here on my page, and any of them you go to will is worth extra credit. Is there a CPE with the events? Oh, continuing professional education. Yes, anything is good for continuing professional education. The rule is an hour of training is 1 CPE. So if you go to an hour talk, that's 1 CPE. If you take a whole college course, that's 40 CPEs. And on it goes. So there doesn't have to be any statement on the website or any deal. That's true of any kind of technical training. For example, when I got my CISSP years ago, people said DEF CON doesn't count because it's not a professional event like Black Hat. And I just claimed DEF CON and they took it. It's fine. Good. So apparently the book is really good, available free. Thanks, folks. So anyway, all right. So, by the way, attendance of the class live is optional. You do not need to, you don't get points for attendance. You don't lose points for not being here. Your points come entirely for quizzes, discussions, presentations, and the paper. And you'll see the timeline here. So I'm going to cover a couple topics tonight, and then the first quiz is due next week. Although the asterisk means you won't actually lose any points for being late until February 14, because people might still be adding the course. So there's no point having them late when they're just adding. But anyway, I recommend taking it by next week. In general, you should take a quiz in each take the quiz in each chapter before we talk about it, just to encourage you to read the book first. All right. And so there's a whole lot of time for presentations and papers and book chapters and such. Yes, and if anybody wants to add, just make an ad request online, and I'll check after the lecture and just approve everybody. There's room for everybody. Everybody that wants in can get in. Just make an ad request online, and I'll approve it. All right, so that's how the grading works. And the point of this class is to cover the CISSP certification material, which I plan to describe here. So let's start with a quick overview of the CISSP certification and why it's important. This is the my simple explanation. So here's all these people are expected to have a CISSP. Security consultants are expected to have it. Pretty much anybody that works for any kind of corporation in a security role is expected to have this certification. It's like the union card of the business. And your highly technical people like penetration testers really hate it because they're wasting their time learning a bunch of management. It's not technical at all. It does not mean you know how to hack into anything, and they don't see the point, many of them. But there is a point, because even if you're a very technical, hands-on person, you have to talk to management, and you need to know their language, and you need to know how they think, and you need to get over resenting and hating management for not being technical. You have to approach them with some level of respect, or you will not be successful. So, there's another issue, of course, is that many students have no money, but after you get a CISSP, these corporate jobs play well. No, the video looks good here. If the Twitch video freezes up, try refreshing your screen. All right, so let's examine a simple case history. Here, for example, is a military object that was considered critical national infrastructure. And so this has to be defended by cybersecurity experts because there are dangerous terrorists out there that want to destroy this important military infrastructure. So the way your company works, you have a leader. Chief executive officer is typically not technical, and they have the grand vision. They understand the goal of the company, and they make the ultimate decisions. And then there is security staff with technical training. They can run devices and protect physical security and electronic security, but they typically don't have good communication skills or management skills. So in between the CEO and the technical staff, you have middle management. And these people, everybody on both sides generally hates them. They don't know why they exist. They just seem to get in the way, but this is the way every company works. They have these middle managers who try to take the grand vision from the top executives and make the technical staff do it, and usually they're not very clear in their communication, and people get mad at them. In particular, one problem that happens is middle management typically does not like hearing bad news about security, which, for example, just happened to Twitter. Twitter just fired their very famous security staff this week because they wanted to tie your Twitter account to your wallet for NFTs, and apparently their security staff wouldn't go along with it, so the new CEO just fired all the security staff, which is the kind of thing that tends to happen. So this is what you get.
We've analyzed their attack, sir, and there is a danger. Should I have your ship standing by?
Evacuate? In our moment of triumph?
Notice the look. You get the look when you tell the boss something they don't want to hear. And that's the problem. How do you communicate unpleasant facts to the boss? Let me see if I can figure out how to shut this up. All right, there we are. Anyway, all right, so this is what you need the CISSP for. CISSP is skilled in both technology and management. So they can report directly to CEO and get respect, and they can communicate with the technical staff and be respected by them. This is the idea. And therefore, you get a better response when they have to face administrative hurdles, like this one.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
So, see, he can handle those middle managers, which other people can't handle. So, therefore can fight the terrorists and save the company. So this should inspire you. Well, he faked being choked out. Well, I don't know. There's always these conspiracy theories denying what you can see right in front of you, suggesting that people would fake that. And that is a well-known not everyone realizes this, but if you get the CISSP, you gain that ability to choke people psychically. So that's another reason to get it. All right. Anyway, in a more prosaic manner, let me move on to the first chapter here with the details. Now that you understand how important it is to have a CISSP, let's talk about how you get it. All right. So what we'll do in here is practice terms and concepts, student presentations and papers, and discussions in the discussion board. You know about the website and such. So certifications are pretty important these days. So perhaps more important than college degrees. They certainly are everywhere. And this is the main one, CISSP. A lot of people I know like me, I have maybe 15 certifications or something. I know people with up to like 50 certifications. And the only one I really pay for and maintain is the CISSP. And I've had friends that do the same thing. This is the one everybody cares about. The most famous, most trusted certification. So it is considered to lead you to a lot of money. It's not a beginning certification at all. In fact, you have to have years of experience to get it. It's something that moves you up into security management. And I'm actually now doing security consulting. It occurs to me the last couple of years, which I didn't used to do. And in fact, they really wanted to see my certifications in order to give me that job. So I happen to know it's true. So it's also required for the military. If you handle classified data, or indeed if you work on IT and any military systems, you have to have certain certifications, and this is one of them, although they will also accept lesser ones like CAI Certified Ethical Hacker and Security Plus. All right, so this is a globally recognized standard, and so here's the requirements. You have to have 5 years of experience working in information security, and it costs a lot of money, a lot more than it used to. And they give you a 3-hour exam. And it is actually a very difficult exam. You really have to prepare a lot because it is very strange and very confusing. You can also do what I did. If you take the exam and pass it, but you do not yet have the required experience, you become an associate of ISC squared, and then you have a period of a few years to gain the experience, which is what I did. So there's also halfway up to a CISSP is an SSCP you can get, about half as much, a lower price, which I suppose might be good too. Like the Associate of ISC Squared, probably a little better than that. These are things I guess you would get at a company, and then the company realized that if they'll just wait a couple of years, you'll probably be able to get a CISSP too. And there are a lot of other certifications at ISC Squared, like one in healthcare and cloud security and so on. There are a lot of similar security certifications, but the CISSP is by far the most famous and the most desired. CompTIA has their competing certification called CISSP, which never really gained much traction, like most CompTIA certifications. The only CompTIA certifications that really got some traction were A+, Net+, and Security Plus. And now I think Pentest Plus people say is pretty good, although it's new. They have a ton of others that never really gain a lot of recognition, and I don't think this one really gained a lot of recognition. So here's a few of them. All right. And so if you get any ISC squared certification, that's the name of the company, you have to sign their code of ethics. And their code of ethics is really quite reasonable, but this is perhaps part of why people trust it. If you are a doctor or a lawyer, you have to be entered into a society like the board for lawyers, and if you do something unethical, you lose your certification, like Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani went to court, and he maintained that he had proof that the previous election, the 2020 election, was rigged and faked, and he didn't have that proof. And you can't be a lawyer and go to court and claim a lie, and that's what he did, so they've revoked or suspended his license to practice law. And that can happen to you if you have a CISSP. If you have a CISSP and you do not obey the ethics clause, they can remove your CISSP, so to some extent, having this credential means you can be trusted. And so here's the rules. You're trying to protect the infrastructure. This is a certification you would take to get a job at a big corporation or military to help hold up society as it is. If you are some kind of rebel and you want to tear everything down and not have any more corporations and no more military industrial complex, you shouldn't be getting a CISSP. You're on a different track. The CISSP is the people that hold up the established structure, like Darth Vader. Anyway, so You're promised to obey the law and act honorably and provide diligent service, just like a contractor or other people. You don't lie to your customer. You don't inflate your price. You don't promise to do something that you're not competent to do and then do a bad job, just like anybody doing contracting, fixing your roof. Basic business ethics. And just like a lawyer or a doctor, you have to do some extra work you don't get paid for. That's part of your continuing professional education. You're expected to go to training events outside work, read books, give talks at conferences, things like that. Do something to help beginners and protect the profession, which is the same thing lawyers and doctors are expected to do. And they have a structure to enforce that to some extent. So, the exam is the main obstacle in your people's way, although I realize the experience may also, you may not have the experience yet, although you might, because you can really kind of stretch it. For example, if you've been a security guard, physical security guard, that counts. Any kind of work in security, as long as you have a few years of it, is often good enough. But you will have to write a custom version of your resume where these things can be verified. So this class is not enough to take you from zero to passing the test, not at all. And that's true of every certification prep class I've ever been to. They don't take you all the way. You have to go through the material twice before taking the test if you want to pass the test. So what I recommend is taking a class like this and then taking a good practice exam. The best one is the one that's now called Cyber Vista. It's the most expensive and by far the best practice exam. It is the closest to the real exam, and it really prepares you, and that's how I prepared. I went through this exam until I was getting 100% on it, and then when I took the real test, it was easy. It's not cheating. It wasn't identical questions, but it was questions phrased the right way and covering the right topic, which is really important because this test is famous for being confusing. If you have a practical hands-on test like, say, Cisco certification, they'll ask you a question about a technical thing, like, where do this range of IP addresses start and stop? And there's one answer mathematically right, and that's it. And the CISSP questions are not like that at all. They will have a vague, confusing question, and then they will have 4 answers, none of which is exactly right. And your job is to take the one that is the best of the 4, even though they're all kind of wrong. And I think they're trying to simulate what it is to be the manager of a company. You don't really have complete information, and yet you have to make a good judgment anyway. But anyway, it's you really have to practice on these questions. It is strange. You have to get into the strange mindset of the CISSP exam. So there are blogs out there talking about the types of questions and how to approach them. And like I say, a good practice exam will confront you with this kind of question so you get used to thinking that way. It's very much like Dilbert is the best source of management information in my experience. Dilbert and Game of Thrones prepare you for this. And here he talks about how a proper report in a corporate structure must be hard to read and hard to understand, or it won't be taken seriously. And the CISSP questions seem to have been seriously passed through a filter just to make them mind-boggling. All right. And so I think I'm going to stop the video and just ask for comments here.